Happy New Year, everyone! So in my opinion, 2024 was such a fun year for movies, and it got me thinking, with the new year, what do we have in store and will it surpass 2024? In my opinion, there's a great chance because so many iconic directors are coming back in 2025, and I'm so excited to tell you all about it. So here are 8 films that I'm most looking forward to in 2025. I've split up this video into 2 parts because a lot of movies coming out next year don't yet have a release date. The first part are for movies that for sure I know are going to be released in 2025 and they have a date already set that they'll be in the cinema or on Netflix or a streaming service. And then the second part will be movies that are rumored to be released in 2025. And I believe all of these movies are kind of in the post-production stage right now. So without further ado, let's get started. There are 3 movies that have a planned release date that I am definitely running to the cinema to see. So far, I think the movies announced are either the blockbuster films or so a lot of horror films have been announced already. For those who don't already know my taste in movies, I don't tend to watch too much horror. I'm like pretty bad with gore and frightening content. It's a little bit triggering for me, so I tend to avoid the horror movies upon release until I hear about like how scary they are or what type of horror it is. Yeah, so basically those I'm more cautious about, but I think there's some really exciting horror movies that are going to come out next year, and there's also some exciting blockbusters and superhero films. Like I think Superman is releasing next year, which is exciting, and for those I kind of stay like cautiously optimistic about. I'm not like a huge Marvel junkie or a huge DC junkie, so if a friend asks me to go watch one of those movies with them, I'll go, but otherwise I'm kind of happy to just wait and stream those movies at home if I hear that they're good. So that was kind of a long spiel, but basically I'm just trying to say that there's 3 movies that I will for sure be buying tickets to see at my local cinemas because I will not be able to wait for these 3 releases. I'm so excited. So the first movie I am super excited for is coming out in March, and I think it's March 7th specifically, and it's Bong Joon-ho's next film. It's his first release after the widespread success of Parasite, and so who isn't excited for this? I think I've seen a lot of the internet already talking about it, and the trailer has already been released. So Mickey 17 is based off of a novel called Mickey 7, written by Edward Ashton. The premise of the story is that a man who wants to escape Earth signs up to be something called an expendable. So I believe expendables have the opportunity to carry out these dangerous tasks to help with this mission to colonize an ice planet, I believe. Since it's so dangerous, I think it's like pretty certain that expendables will die in the process, and each time they die, there's a clone made from their body. The clone gets to maintain some memories from the past lives as well. So the concept's very interesting. It's supposed to be a science fiction / black comedy, which I didn't expect the comedy aspect. I'm really excited for that. And for those who have seen the trailer, you probably already know that the trailer actually had such a comedic tone to it. Like Robert Pattinson, who will be playing the main protagonist in this film, uses a pretty comedic voice. Like it sounds like he sucked helium. It's really goofy. I'm really excited about that and how it'll contrast the more heavy, gruesome themes of the film, because I think one of the first scenes of the trailer is Robert Pattinson losing his arm, but then there's such like a funny, like there's just like some dramatic music playing that just makes the whole scene so funny. So yeah, I'm sad for that movie. I'm so ready. The next movie I'm really excited for is actually How to Train Your Dragon, the live action version. How to Train Your Dragon will be releasing on June 13th. I'm actually pretty cautious about these animated films to remakes into live actions, because as we've seen from like a lot of the Disney remakes, they aren't necessarily the highest quality, and especially when there's like a lot of CGI involved. So for example, the Lion King live action remakes, I found like I haven't even watched them because the trailers have thrown me off so much that there's like so many CGI animal characters, and it's just like, what's the point? Like we might as well be animating the animals. But I think with How to Train Your Dragon, it's different because obviously dragons don't actually exist in this world. And the trailer was released for How to Train Your Dragon live action, and it looks really like amazing, to be honest. And maybe I'm just a little biased because I really like the animated film, and they do play the same like soundtrack from the animated film, and those songs get me emotional, so that trailer was not fair. And that was a lot of rambling. I want to also provide a short summary of what How to Train Your Dragon is about for those who have not yet watched the animated film, but it's set in a world where Vikings hunt down dragons, and the main protagonist, he dreams of becoming a dragon hunter, but one day he actually encounters a dragon and ends up befriending it, and he has to go about and change the viewpoints of the Vikings on coexisting peacefully with dragons. So it's really wholesome, and I imagine it'll be a really magical experience watching that in the theater. So the third movie that will absolutely be running to the cinemas to watch is Wicked for Good, which will be releasing on November 21st, which is exactly a year after the first Wicked movie was released. I think we all know that Wicked was one of the biggest movies of 2024. I personally was cautiously optimistic about it because I'm such a huge fan of the musical. So I just, had high expectations, and they were knocked out of the park. Ariana Grande was such a good Glinda. Like, she had amazing comedic timing, and I think she really channeled Kristen Chenoweth in her performance as well, like in a good way. And Cynthia was, of course, also the embodiment of Elphaba, and she has such a powerful and beautiful voice. So I really liked how, in general, the musical aspect, like the soundtrack, turned out as well. I've been listening to it nonstop. So yeah, that's my rambling of how much I love Wicked, and so there's no question that I'm excited for the second installment in this, I don't even know if you can call it a franchise, but yeah, in the Wicked film duology. I know when I was watching the first Wicked, and they didn't really market it as like a two-part movie franchise. Rather, I went in and I saw on the screen like Wicked, when the title screen came up, it said Wicked and then part 1 at the bottom, so I was kind of confused, like, oh, I didn't know that they weren't going to cover the whole story in this movie. But in hindsight, I'm really happy they made that choice. I think the two movies are going to have completely different tones. The first movie had, great comedy. It was very magical and colorful, and there was a lot of fun songs like Popular and What Is This Feeling? So really like fun vibes. But the second movie, so Wicked for Good, I think will have a lot more of a darker tone if they follow the path of the musical. It will be a lot more Elphaba focused. I'm really excited to see Cynthia Erivo shine in that role. And it also has my most favorite song of the Wicked musical, which is For Good. They even named the movie after it. So really excited overall. And November 21st can't come soon enough. So that wraps up the 3 movies that actually have release dates that I am super excited for personally. Now we're moving on to the movies where there's no release date yet, but there are talks that these movies are going to be released in 2025. And I really hope they are, because I can't wait for a lot of these. The first movie is called Materialists, and it's Celine Song's upcoming film. And I think Past Lives from 2023 was her directorial debut, which I love that film. It was so intimate, so emotional and beautifully done. So I'm excited for anything that she's going to work on in the future. But this specifically, Materialist, I'm really excited for, because it's being said that it's a romantic comedy right now. And Past Lives was a lot more dramatic and had like a melancholic tone. I'm not sure what kind of tone Materialist will have, but if there's more of a comedic aspect, I'm excited to see how Celine Song tackles that. And what we know of the premise so far is that it'll follow a matchmaker who will be played by Dakota Johnson, and what happens when she falls into this love triangle and what happens to her business. So that sounds like a fun setup, and I believe Chris Evans and Pedro Pascal are also both in this film. The cast, I would say, like, some of these cast members have had huge hits but also huge misses in their career, but since they're working with Celine Song, who has done such a good job with Past Lives, I'll stay optimistic about it, even though it's a kind of a weird combination of people in my head personally. But yeah, Materialists, I will for sure be watching that in the theaters. So the next film I'm super excited about is called J. Kelly, and it is Noah Baumbach's next movie. Literally, he is one of my favorite directors. Francis Ha's one of my all-time favorite movies, and also Marriage Story was so well done. And he's also involved in a lot of Greta's films like Barbie. I think he co-wrote that with her. So this man has the magical touch, in my opinion. Almost nothing has been leaked about this film, except that it's going to star George Clooney and Adam Sandler, and it's being said to be a coming-of-age film, but for adults, which is super interesting because we usually only get those movies about either tweens or young adults or people, you know, going through college. So I'm excited to see what the like mature adult version of a coming of age story will be. And Adam Sandler is an actor I've been following more closely lately after watching his performance in Uncut Gems and Hustle, because he started off as a comedic actor, but once he started really getting to these dramatic roles, it's just like, wow, he's a complete different actor in my opinion. It's just really cool to see the trajectory that his career is taking. Next is a movie I'm especially excited about as someone who loves historical / period films, and it is Hamnet. I think I have a lot of book adaptations on this list actually. So yes, Hamnet is based on a book of the same name that I think was very popular last year or the year before. Like, I saw a lot of booktubers I watched talk about it. The story is fictional, but it's about William Shakespeare and his wife Agnes, and how they deal with the death of their 11-year-old son. I think it's actually much more focused on Agnes Shakespeare, if I'm not mistaken. So I'll be interested to see kind of how everything pans out because I haven't read the book yet. I'm debating reading it before this movie comes out, but also sometimes it's fun to go into movies blind, you know? Hamnet will be directed by Chloe Zhao, who directed Nomadland, that won Best Picture, and so she's very gifted. And seeing her take on this film is very exciting. Also, it stars Paul Mescal, who can do no wrong, and whenever he's on the cast list of a film, I just know I'm going to almost pass away from sobbing throughout the film. So he's always wonderful. Overall, Hamnet sounds like it's going to check all my boxes, and I'm sad for this film. Next is a movie I'm excited about based on casting alone, and it is the drama starring Zendaya and Robert Pattinson. I never thought that combination would act together in a romantic movie, but it somehow works so well. And I've already seen some behind the scene photos that were leaked, and I think they were circulating on Twitter and circulating on TikTok. You know, the chemistry already looks amazing, even though they were still photos. So I'm so ready. I literally know nothing else about this film. I'm excited based on the cast alone, and looks like Robert Pattinson will probably have a big year in 2025, so good for him. It's really heartwarming to see him go from acting in franchises I've liked, such as Harry Potter and Twilight, and really build onto his career by taking on more serious roles. Yeah, he's really made a career for himself, and I will be watching all the films he's in next year. And finally, the last movie that I have on this list is The History of Sound. And although there's no release date yet, I believe there were rumors that they're going to release this during Cannes in 2025. So it might be sooner than we think that this film will be released. Again, the casting of this movie is just perfect. It will be Paul Mescal and Josh O'Connor, both of which I've fallen in love with in the last few years. Paul Mescal from like After Sun, Normal People, but Josh O'Connor too, like his performance in Challengers had me quaking. So combining these two is like blowing my mind. And yeah, casting alone, amazing. But the premise also sounds super interesting and honestly heart-wrenching. So I believe the premise of this film will be two men trying to, in World War I, record the lives and voices of their fellow countrymen, and I believe it's also a gay romance. So you know, World War I and romance together sounds like it might be tragic. So it's based on a short story and I've never read it. I can't imagine anything Paul Mescal being in to be a purely happy ending. So I go into this with caution. I will be waiting until after the movie to read the short story. I believe it is publicly available though on a website. But I want to go into this blind and be utterly wrecked if that is what's going to happen. Okay, so that wraps up my most anticipated movie releases that are planned for 2025. Like I said in the beginning of the video, 2024 was an amazing year for movies, in my opinion. We had some surprise hidden gems, and I still have yet to watch a lot of the movies that are already in the Oscar talks, like Sing Sing, what else? The Brutalist. I still have to watch films like that, so those will also be films that I will be checking out in 2025 because they haven't had a huge release yet. So I think my local theater maybe had 1 or 2 dates for some of these movies, but the timing wasn't great, so I haven't seen it yet, and so I'll have to wait until they come back into those theaters or if they're made available on streaming services, which I really hope they'll do before the Oscars, because I like to do this thing where I watch all the Oscar nominated movies before the Oscar night and make some predictions on who will win. To wrap up, I actually want to share 2 goals I had in mind for 2025 in terms of movie watching. One I already talked about is to watch all the Oscar nominated films. So when that list comes out, I will be making sure that my weekends are dedicated to getting through that movies, and maybe I'll make a video about that as well. And then my second goal is to hit 100 films watched in 2025. In 2024, I actually reached 93. I had a really bad movie watching month too this year, where I watched maybe like 2 films that entire month. So if I don't hit any slumps like that, I think it's doable. So these are kind of my 2 goals, and I'm also just excited to report back on how I actually feel about some of these movies that I'm highly anticipating for 2025. So thank you so much for watching. I'm really interested in hearing what films you guys are excited for in 2025. So make sure to leave them down in the comment box below, and I will be seeing if I should add anything more to my list. Okay, that's all for now. Bye.